everyone, and welcome to another fun show of 15 Minutes of Fame with Dawn Branch. Tonight's guest, we have Mr. Big Ced, Cedric Thornton of New York City. We're so excited to have him with us. I can't wait to hear all about his hip hop stories, his marketing promotion stories, and he's also a writer and editor. So I can't wait to hear all about that. Before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors, InStyle Performance Wear in Orlando, Florida. I'd like to thank All Things Centered Essential Oils, TGI Virtual Fundraiser for the Student Achievement Institute, Delivery Travels by Rosalind Shepard, and That's Entertainment Performing Arts Competition. Thank you to all the sponsors for helping to support the show. And again, 15 Minutes of Fame is when we bring industry professionals to your home so that we can learn about tips that we can improve on getting auditions, tips on just working in period in life. So without any further ado, Mr. Kevin, let's introduce our new guest, Mr. Ced. Oh! And go. Go, Ced. Go, Ced. Work. Big Ced. You know you love it. That's your theme song. So audience tonight, whenever Big Ced gets snarky with us, look. We're going to throw that on. Yes. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to see you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's get started. Let's get into it. Who is Mr. Big Ced? The show was only an hour, brother. Just saying.
So why is it called 15 Minutes of Fame?
Because
I'm joking.
that's just a saying. Kevin, hit that thing.
My name is
one. Okay. Who's Big Ced? Go.
My name is Cedric C. Thornton the First. I grew up in New York City in the Bronx. I guess I'm a writer, promoter, just an all-around good guy. So I've been told. I've been working in the industry for actually since I was 19. So that's about, how old am I? That's like 30 something years. Yeah. So I've been working in the industry for like 30 plus years, specifically hip hop music, anything surrounding hip hop, because hip hop is involved in everything nowadays. So am I.
We were raised in hip hop. That was our era. So Speaking of like 19ish, that's when I met you, like in high school, like around 17 or 18 years old. We both went to the same high school.
16.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to the same high school.
So, but you were actually there for music. I was there for dance. You were there for music. So how did your musical career, your journey start? Like, how did you know you could sing? Like, what happened?
Well, ever since I was younger, I was a big fan of the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson. So, I have two brothers, one younger, one older. And I also had two cousins. We all lived like in the same area. So it was like five of us. So, we used to mimic the Jackson 5. And I've always wanted to be a singer. And I was able to sing. And that was always my goal when I was younger, to be a singer. It started so long ago that I forgot why I wanted to sing, but I just know that, coming up to elementary school and all, and then finding out about music and art. Well, my older brother, Damon, he had gone to music. He went to music and art before me. He's a year older than me. And since he was in that school, and at the time, the movie Fame, I think Fame was like a couple of years before that. And being that music and art and performing arts were sister schools, I had an interest in singing as opposed to acting, even though I wanted to act, but singing was more my thing. And my brother was a musician. So it kind of, had to follow the music thing. So I auditioned for music and art. And as they say, the rest is history. So.
Okay. So your brother went first to music and art.
Yes.
What does he play? I remember him. What did he play?
He plays the piano.
The piano. Do you play the piano too?
I play with my mouth. That's it. I don't play any instruments. I used to play the violin and I used to play guitar, but
Okay.
in my youth. But
So you pretty much, who trained you before you went to high school? Like, did you go? Was there a glee club you were in aside from your group? Like, was there an instructor there, like a teacher, to give you?
I mean, in junior high school, we sang in chorus, but like there was nobody that influenced me, or I can look
Wow.
back and say, hey, if it wasn't for this person, it wasn't like that. It was just a matter of just knowing that that's what I wanted to do. And in
But you
junior high
had to
school,
audition and get in. I'm shocked because in dance, there's no way you could just, hey, this is something I want to do, and just come in. Like you have to train. So I was
well,
just
I
curious
mean,
about that.
natural talent. I mean,
Oh God, hit it, Kevin, please, please.
no, seriously. I mean, it wasn't a matter of, like I said, never went to any vocal classes or anything like that. I mean, I sang in the choir in church when I was, when I was younger, but no
Okay.
formal training. So that's why I say, like, it was just
Hmm.
something that I could do.
Gotcha. And you know what? I've never heard you sing. So off camera, unless you want to do it now for us.
No, you will never hear
Okay,
me
so
sing.
off camera,
No.
I would love to hear that. So you did our time in music and art in LaGuardia. You graduate, so you're about 35 because you got left back a couple of times. All right, okay, I'm only playing. I'm only
Just
playing.
once.
Okay,
Just
so you're
once.
about 19. So what happens after high school?
Well, coincidentally, well, Slick Rick, Dana Dane, MC Search, we had like early MCs that actually went to the school.
Ah,
So knowing them and just being around them, actually Tuffy, of course you remember Tuffy. We actually had a singing group after high school. We used to sing. Cause me and Tuffy hung out since like third grade, and he lived 2 blocks down from me. So we went to high school. Went to school together. And when we left high school, actually it was a little bit later. Actually, even before that, even before we even did the group thing,
okay.
Tuffy's sister worked with Video Music Box and Ralph McDaniel, and um, I think they had, yeah, it was Classic Concept was the name of the company. The Vid Kid and Ralph McDaniels, and Tuffy's sister Cheryl used to work with them, and I know that they had invited me to come down to be a PA, a production assistant for a video, and it never really worked out. I think because the first video set I went to was Dougie Fresh Keep Rising to the Top. And back then, you see a video, it's what, 4 or 5 minutes and video's over. So, I never knew that it was like an all day thing for a 4 or 5 minute video. So, we went to the video and I was actually in the video, so to speak, because the cameras were going by, but I wasn't in the video. So it's like, you know, especially back then, videos was a big thing. And to be on a video set and seeing the camera go by you, it's like, oh, I'm going to be in a video. So I remember like going home and like telling my friends, yeah, I'm going to be in this video, this, that, and the other. Video comes out, no Cedric,
Oh,
nothing, not even a pass by, But the funny thing was that maybe either a couple of weeks later or maybe a month later. Now, a lot of people don't know this story. Like I was in MC Light's first video, of course, Paper Thin. Now the premise for the video was
oh,
MC
hold on.
Light.
We actually have the clip. Can you roll
Oh,
that,
okay.
Kevin? There's no sound.
That's
Look
me.
at look at Sadie. Oh,
Look at me.
chilling.
It's still
So
like that though.
you were the boyfriend.
Yeah, the cheating boyfriend.
So how did you get cast for that? How did this happen?
Okay, so this is what happened. Initially it was supposed to be MC Light. Well, no, what MC Light was there. It was supposed to be the two girls you see me hugging with. It was supposed to be me, someone else, and the two girls, and she busts us. Now, the person who was originally in the role of Sam was our friend who we went to high school with. His name was Carl Payne. I think he
Oh
played
yes.
Cockroach in the Cosby Show.
Mhm.
Cole and Martin.
Mhm.
Actually, Tuffy, Cole, Tuffy, Carl, and me, we used to hang out in high school. So when they did the video, he was cast as, MC Lyte's boyfriend. The morning of the shoot, he actually called me and said he wasn't going. And I'm like, why? He said because he was Cockroach in the Cosby Show, and he didn't want to get typecast. But of course, he went to Martin and played Cole. But that's a different story. So he didn't show up. So when we got to the set, Lionel had asked me would I feel comfortable filling in for him, and I'm like, wow, like me being in the actual video, say yeah. So that's how that came about, where I became the star of the video based on Carl not being it, because I was just going to be an extra alongside him. That's why there was two girls. So when he didn't show up, it was just a matter of it being me and the two girls. So that's
That's
how that
awesome story.
that's how that, and I owe all of that to, of course, my friendship with Tuffy and his sister Cheryl. Cheryl was the one that got me involved with that. So, and as they say, the rest is history. So,
Shout out to Cheryl and Tuffy.
so
It's so
yeah,
friendship is it's so when you're in this business, it's very small, and you want to
yeah.
cherish your friends that really love and support you. So again, shout out to Tuffy, and I haven't met his sister, but this is a sidebar conversation. Did you know Jerry? I don't want to say his
Jerry.
last name, but he grew up with Tuffy, and he was like his best friend, Jerry. Okay, never mind. No
I was about to
topic.
say, unless he had a different name, I'm like,
Okay, he
I'm a.
might. I don't know, but I used to work with him, and it's anyway. Moving on. Okay, so you've done videos with MC Lyte. Who else?
Dougie Fresh, cut that zero. It was myself, Tuffy, and another gentleman named Jimmy Manus. Like they use a sample for Levert, cut that zero. Get with this hero, blah blah blah. So we played, I guess, the Levert in the video, and
Okay.
Moni Love, Moni in the middle.
Do we
That
have
was
that
another.
clip, Kevin?
That's me again, and that's
Oh
not Moni in
wow!
the
Look,
middle.
I used to
But
love her. Oh my gosh!
me too.
Did you ever work with Queen Latifah?
Knew Queen Latifah, but not worked with her.
Okay.
And
Okay. Wow.
there I come. Here I come. Here I
There
come.
you
Here I come.
go.
Not yet. Not yet. Right? Hey. Okay. I'm in there. I'm serious. I am. There I go. That
Aw,
was
yeah. I remember those videos too. I would get so excited because I would watch
yeah.
video. Everybody watch video music box. Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny, well,
Okay.
with this particular video, I met Moni. Um, we met up at in Co-op City. We met, and they told her, I forgot who it was. I think Latifah was there as well. They told her that I was in MC Light's video. So without even hesitating, she said, "Do you want to be in my video?" And I'm like, "Sure." And that's how
Oh,
that happened. And but the thing is, I didn't know that it was gonna be like this, where like I was playing that role, but I had the bulk of the time for the video, so I accepted it and then just moved, became the first video hoe in hip hop history.
oh gosh. So PG show.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sorry.
yeah. So Cedric, so you did the videos. Would you consider this part of your 30-something year music career? Or is there other things that you did aside from being the lead in everybody's video?
I mean, well, this is a start because coincidentally, like Tuffy and I started doing parties around that time. And like I said, going to music and art afforded us opportunity to go to school with people like Slick Rick, Dana Dane, MC Search, Mark Pitts. I mean, it's a
Oh
whole
my
list. So
God. Where is Mark? Shout out to Mark Pitts.
he's
Where's my
probably living.
TV, Mark?
He's in his castle somewhere making a whole lot of money. But being around these many people, that when Tuffy was on, because Tuffy used to host Video Music Box, and I was just always around. So a guy named Mike Kaiser, he's actually, I think he's still the VP of Atlantic Records, VP of Black Music at Atlantic Records. He suggested that me and Tuffy do parties. So at first we were like, yeah, whatever, but we decided to do a party. And the first party we did was at this club called MK's. And the party was so successful. We had like so many like hip hop luminaries there, where it started another money making opportunity for the both of us because we started doing parties. And
Okay,
like I
let's
said,
stop
everything.
right there. Let's stop right there because this is a
Yeah,
training show. So I want you to give us like some tips of how you promoted and how you got started. Now you said you got started because you knew famous people,
they
right?
knew me.
So there was a street team that you had to hire, or you the street team. There was no, computers. So how did you get
Well,
the
see,
word out?
well, back then it was completely different than what it was. This was like pre street team. There was no street team yet. It was
Wow.
basically flyers. Where you had to make a flyers. But even back then, hip hop as a culture was still new, and it wasn't in the clubs like it is today, or even if how it was like even 20 years ago. So we kind of set the tone when it came to promoting parties as well. Like we were doing parties even before Puff was doing parties. So we just went by word of mouth because we knew so many people. Plus, Video Music Box. We had Video Music Box where Ralph was sometimes on the air, depending on the party. Because I also did celebrity basketball games at that time as well. So anything that I did, the correlation with Video Music Box was always used. I used it to my advantage. Or people will come to me or come to Tuffy or both of us to do something because Video Music Box was the show before MTV had Yo MTV Raps or whatever. So everything was basically word of mouth. But we went out. The funny thing is that even back then we had to rent clubs and things of that nature. So it was kind of a lot of money, but we had people that either fronted the money for us or we made deals with the clubs or things of that nature. But basically, we kind of started that whole thing. Not saying me and Tuffy, but on where we on the level we were on, and hip hop parties first started like becoming more popular. And I'm not talking about the hip hop parties in the Bronx where you had the old school artists. I'm talking about where hip hop started to become more commercialized because of the videos and things of that nature. Our connections with the people we went to school with, and then Tuffy being host of Video Music Box, and then the whole Video Music Box connection made it easier because either we already knew them or as they were coming into the game, they would know we were doing things, so they would come to us. Like I remember I remember Buster Rhymes coming up to me at one party and he said, "Yo, I will always have love for you." And I'm like, "I will always have love for you." He said, "No, you don't understand. When we first got in the game, nobody knew who we was. Nobody knew who we were. We used to come to your parties and you used to let us in not knowing who we were or what we were about to do. And I appreciate that because we would go to clubs, we would go places, people wasn't feeling us, people wasn't letting us in. You were always, respectful to us, this, that, and you didn't know who we were, this, that, and other." I didn't realize it because like my personality is if you're cool, you're cool. So when he told me that, I'm like, and then to hear other artists like DOS Effects came to our first party. Like I can name people that actually remember like our parties being the first parties that they were either introduced to or that they attended once they became artists or when they were on the cusp of signing a deal or doing videos and things of that nature. So, and some of those people to this day, we're still cool. But I just remember back then where it was no BS. It was just a matter of like, and I guess that I was always the guy that people spoke to because Tuffy was also Video Music Box, so he was more popular. But I was the one that did the everything else while he hosted. So more people knew me from that aspect. So even when I started doing other things, people would come to me to do other promotions and things of that nature years down the line. But like I said, at that particular time, it was just a matter of there was no direct training because nobody was really doing it at the time. But we kind of set the tone where everybody that came after us kind of went off what like we kind of did the blueprint. And I'm not saying that we created anything. I'm just saying we were in the area. We had a time where it wasn't going on, where people started doing it at that. Like I said, Puff started doing parties after us. Jessica Rosenblum, who was another big party promoter, like all these other party promoters that started doing things, they started doing it after we started doing it. So we just went by gut feeling. We just went like, hey, let's do this and see where it takes us, and it works. So I guess that's why people started either following us or just doing it on their own and just borrowing what they've learned from us and took it off on their own. So
So I have a question about that. Can you name the biggest party you've done with like the biggest celebrity there? Like who would that be? Who would you consider? Like or even the celebrity basketball games that you put together. Who was like the A-listers that you would bring in?
I mean, first off, I'm like 90 years old now, so my memory. But we
Oh, okay.
like we were involved in so many. I mean, we
I guess I'm asking because I know, like, for example, you said before Puff. So I know how he always does his white party, like something big like that. Did you ever
well,
annually do someone
we
party
used
like
to
that?
do we used to do parties with Puff.
Oh,
Like we used to do parties with Puff, Heavy D, and the funny thing is that when we were doing the parties, we were doing parties with the people who weren't A-list yet, but they were on their way. So at the time, like I said, Queen Latifah, Naughty by Nature, Heavy D, like I said, Dots Effect, Special Ed, Dana Dane. I mean, it was just so many where I can't name one particular party or event. I mean, my
oh,
celebrity games, the celebrity games we did because I did this. I basically did the celebrity games, but I did it with Video Music Box, so it was always a Video Music Box celebrity game. I can comfortably say that I probably did the most celebrity games out of anybody in this world because we used to do them so often. Where we did a Fourth of July one with Teddy Riley every year in Virginia. I did
now
some
did he
stuff for
perform? He like halftime performance? Is that how that
no,
happened?
yeah, we had that it was celebrities. He had people down there. We would come there. We would go to different states. We did the Ed Lover. I mean, man,
Well, tell
if
your
I can,
audience we want. I mean, we're interested to know what you've done.
no, I know. I'm just trying to think of what would be impressive to them because I'm not easily impressed by what I've done because I've done it already. But when people hear some of the stuff I've done, they're like, "Wow, that's big." But to me, it's not. So I don't want to overemphasize something and nobody cares, or I don't want to say something that's very minute and they think it's something big.
Okay. So then let's just talk the business end of it. So you said
Yeah,
you would have people front the money. You right? You rent out the
yeah.
space. You got to sell the tickets, and then there's a split at the door. Now you're doing it with Tuffy, Video Music Box, and yourself. So is that a three-way split? How did you guys manage that?
Well, when Tuffy and I started doing parties, it was just Tuffy and I. So if we did parties, and even if we did, sometimes we make deals with the club. They will keep the bar, we keep the door. So all
Okay.
100% of the door was us. We didn't know at the time that the bar's making $10,000 and we may make $1,000 at the door, not realizing that because our people would come in, they were spending the money, but yet we would get like even if we charge $20 at the door, it's like drinks and everything else, and from whatever time we started till like 4 in the morning, But of course, that's that you learn as you go. But I mean, everybody was different, but typically we would make sure that we would go to a club where we didn't have to put up money. Some clubs we had to. We had people that would put the money up for us. Once they get their money back, then we split it. But typically it's or people will come to us for partnerships. DJ
Mm.
Enough, yeah, I think he's still in Hot 97. DJ Enough did his very first party with us, with me, Tuffy, and two guys named the Love Brothers. Now they brought Enough into it, so it's like Big Cap. There were so many different people that we partnered with or we did parties with where it was always me and Tuffy, but we have other partners or other people will come to us. And then it comes to a point where you have like sub promoters where we would be the main promoters and then we get other people to promote under us or with us or whatever. So there's so many different intricacies. But back then, it was just a matter of most of the time, we just got the door as opposed to getting a piece of the bar. As we got more into the game, it became more of a I get 20% of the bar, blah, 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 and that type of thing. Started doing parties at restaurants and things of that nature. Where I did parties in the Grill Village for I think like 13 years. I mean, like I said, there's so many different things over the years where the things that we started doing, I was able to do years later because it wasn't like I didn't have to go to somebody to ask them what they had to do. It's basically it was like, we found out. We lost money. We find out the next time. My whole thing was always as long as we break even. I don't want to ever lose money. If we break even, there's no loss. But
Well,
if
there's a
we
loss of time and effort. I mean, You sound like that's a
Yes,
lot of work that you guys did, and then to break even is like, is
no,
that
but
why
yes,
you
yes,
ended up stopping?
but if you have to remember, when you plant the seed, the plant grows. So for us going through what we went through, and if we broke even, we're getting people who are trusting us to give good parties. So we're building a following. Like, so it gets to a point where when I first started doing parties, the big DJs was like Ron G, Kid Capri, even before Funkmaster Flex. People would promote the DJs because the DJs would drew the crowd. I had a different theory. I said, listen, why are we paying DJs $5,000 when we can make that money? So I made sure that we promoted. Well, first it was a video music box thing. We have video
Mhm.
music box. But once either me and Tuffy branched out, or I did when I started doing my own thing, I wanted people to come to my party because it was my party, not because of who the DJ was. Because if I did a party and they came there because Kid Capri was there, if I do another party without Kid Capri, they might not come. So I made
Right.
sure to make it that it was a Tuffy and Big Ced party. Or later down, it was a Big Ced party. So that means any DJ I had, people are going to come because it's not about the DJ. The DJ was a bonus. I learned that
Yeah.
early on because I used to see many promoters use the top DJs. And when they didn't have the top DJs, they didn't make any money. So I'm like, if I'm not going to make any money, it's because nobody's coming. I'm not going to give all my money to the marquee DJs. So
Right.
that's and I stood on that even to this day. If I do a party, it's a Big Ced party with special guest D Nice, special guest DJ Scratch,
Oh,
whoever
sorry.
it
I
is.
just CQ family, holla. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
But
I'm
but
back.
that's a mindset I had when we first started doing parties because I'm like I said, if we broke even, if people have fun at the parties, they're coming to the next one. So
Right.
we didn't lose the time and effort went into. Now, if it was something where we were just doing it here and there, that's different. But we were building a brand when we didn't realize what building a brand was, and it worked. Because to this day, I could do a party and have people come to the party, not
Yes.
because Funkmaster Flex is doing it, but because Big Ced is doing it.
Yes.
So I'm proud of that aspect because that's what I want people to do. Yeah, you're going to a Big Ced party. Oh, so and so's going to be there. Oh, that's a bonus. So
That's
that's how.
awesome. I'm so proud of you. I really am. You know I am. We've stayed in touch throughout all of Kevin and anybody listening. I would call Cedric and he'd be like, "What do you want? What?" Like what?
I still do that.
I'm working. What? No, but he
I still
always
do that
answers the phone. He's still very humble, kind of, sort of, maybe in a strange way. But yeah,
sometimes.
you're a very hard worker. All right, so we did that. So we did. Okay, let's just go back. For the people that are just coming in, we're talking with Big Ced, Cedric Thornton, hip hop mogul of the promotion world. Um,
I wouldn't
and
say all that,
MC
but
Lights
okay.
lead man. MC Lights lead man in the video. Um, okay, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, Cedric. When we come back, I want to start talking about your journalism career and how that happened. Now you're a writer. First you were a singer, then you were an actor, promoter, and then now you're a writer. So we're gonna talk about that when we come back. So stay tuned. Hang in, guys. We'll be right back.
Tonight's episode is sponsored by the following: TGI Virtual Fundraiser for Student Achievement Institute. Help them send 10 high school seniors to the program to help improve their college entrance exams, gain confidence, and strengthen their writing skills. Please donate GoFundMe/TGI Writing Fund. Next sponsors, All Things Centered, visiting allthingscentered.com and choose from a variety of essential oil blends, good for headaches, allergies, stress, and better moods. Get ready for your holiday shopping and order your foot scrubs and bath soaks for your favorite people in your life. Taking orders now at allthingscentered.com. Use code DANCE for free shipping. InStyle provides dance wear, dance space, and point shoe fitting. InStyle's November special. Find us on Google. Give InStyle thanks with a 5-star review. Receive $5 credit on account. Next sponsor is Deliverance Travels. Are you looking to earn extra money and gain financial freedom and time? Become an independent travel agent and create financial freedom and travel the world. Take a chance and move on faith. To pursue this new business journey and help change lives one at a time, including yours, contact Rosalind Shepard or Yvonne Johnson Chuck at 347-206-3363. That's 347-206-3363 and gain your financial freedom. That's Entertainment. That's Entertainment is excited to celebrate 20 years this 2020 season. They are a competition and convention offering live and virtual events for dancers, singers, actors, models, and instrumentalists. By tuning in with Dawn Branch Live, you will receive a free virtual solo or $200 off your studio when you email info@that'sentertainmentpa.com with the code DBL20. Stephanie Mills presents Girls Night Out, a virtual vision board fundraiser party with special guest Melba Moore. Proceeds will benefit 444 Love Foundation. This special event is Saturday, December 12th. Info and tickets available at www.444love.org.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're here with Big Ced, Cedric Thornton, hip hop mogul, what else? Promoter, video guy, and now we're going to find out about his writing. You're also a writer, a man of many talents. So let me ask you, when did you discover you were a great writer or had that in you?
I knew I was a great writer when I was in second grade, but no.
Wow. Aw.
No. Okay, this is how I got into writing. Um, a, a guy named Carew Daniels, he's also a writer. He actually writes for the Daily News now. Um, I forgot what I was doing, but there was a guy named Barry Wade who had a small magazine called One Nut. And Carew knew that I knew a lot of people. And like for whatever reason, he encouraged me to write, even though I have never expressed writing. So, but he knew that I was well connected within hip hop. So there was this guy named Biggie Smalls, a new rapper that was coming out that had a big buzzer on him. So the editor, the owner of the magazine, Barry Wade, was looking for somebody to interview Biggie Smalls. So Carew was like, he introduced me to him. So he's like, yo, I want you to interview this guy named Biggie Smalls. And I'm like, Biggie Smalls? I'm like, yo, Biggie was like the next dude. And Mark Pitts was managing
Shout
him,
out to Mark Pitt.
you know. So the funny thing is that without even asking me for any samples, but based on what Carew told him, he's like, Ced knows everybody knows Ced, blah, blah, blah. So I guess he realized that I can basically, converse with anybody within hip hop and either know them or know what to say or whatever. So we actually did the interview, but I called Mark up because, of course, Mark went to school with us. And I was like, yo, I'm about to interview, Biggie, this, that, and the other. So it was just basically
Okay,
to do
one
that. So I have
second. 1 second. I want you, because there are people that don't know who Mark Pitts is. So you've mentioned his name a couple of times. He's obviously important. So who is Mark Pitts? Mark, you need to
Pitts
come on the show.
Mark Pitts, we all went to high school. We all went to high school together. I think he was about 2 years behind me. He ended up going to Howard University and befriended a guy named Sean Combs, Diddy, Puffy, whatever he calls himself nowadays, because people said they look alike. So they became good friends.
That's what he calls himself.
Yeah, right.
How about that? Yeah.
So Mark and Puff became friends in high school. I mean, in college, and then I guess once Puffy started Bad Boy and started doing his things, I guess Mark had an interest in managing, so he actually started managing Biggie Smalls. So Biggie was his first manager, and then Mark went on to manage or be partners with like Usher, Miguel. I mean, Mark is a big name in the game. And
He
but like I
also
said,
has his own
actually,
production company. What is it called? About
by
Time
Storm
or
Entertainment, by
yeah,
Storm,
by Storm. Yeah.
by Storm Entertainment.
And he
Actually,
keeps changing
let me
faces.
jump ahead because I also produced music too. Mark Pitts was the first person that actually got me a check for my music production with Tracy Lee. But like I
Oh, I
said,
love that rap song. That one song.
yeah,
I'm sure he has many
um,
other songs, but I remember that.
I did the
Sorry.
title track for his album. His album was called Many Faces, and I produced the track for that. But Mark Pitts was the one that got me on that project. But like I said, we can go on for like 4 more hours, and I still wouldn't be able to get to everything I've done. But the
Wow.
writing thing, so when I did the thing with Biggie, like, it was a good interview, my very first interview. But what stood out in the interview was I had asked him, where did he see himself in 10 years? He said dead. So I was like, why dead? He said, because, none of his boys lived past 25 and all this other thing he was saying. Biggie died 9 years later. So it was like a prophecy. And I can't believe I lost the tape. I had the magazine, but that's the one thing that stood out when I did that. But that was my very first interview, and being that I had the hip hop connections, I ended up interviewing like Lord Finesse, Pete Rock, and CL Smooth, Channel Live, and coincidentally, all the people that I was interviewing was people I already knew. So it made it easier to get better interviews. And once I realized back then when I was doing those interviews that I can ask questions of them that no one else either they wouldn't respond to or wouldn't
Hmm.
get the type of answers that I would get. So people started noticing that. And then there was a site called hooked.net. Um, Actually, Puff ended up buying it. And I mean, this was like when the whole .com thing started. And I started writing editorials because I was always opinionated. So I had a column called Politics as Usual. I talked about any and everything, and people gravitated to my writings it was a great thing, but I never considered myself a writer. But then I started getting more opportunities. The same guy that I wrote for at One Nut, Barry Wade, Keith Clinkscales started Vanguard Media. And there was a music magazine called Impact. It was a trade magazine. So he hired Barry Wade to be the editor in chief. In turn, Barry hired me to work at Impact Magazine. I was a chart manager. They already had a music editor and somebody else, but I was a chart manager. But my connections is what got me to like artists. Like I'll put it to this way: I was the first person ever to review an Alicia Keys record. Like we used to get records now with the other trade magazines. Like me and another guy, we did the reviews. What they would do with like Billboard and all these other magazines, they would wait until the record chart or whatever the situation is when they did the reviews. We had to do it a different way. And I came with the idea of saying, listen, we're not going to get the same interviews or the reviews that the bigger magazine is going to get because, one, we were black owned. Even though there was a lot of R&B and hip hop, it was still controlled by major labels and it was always about money. But with the contacts that like I had and some other people had, we had direct contact to like Alicia Keys label and um, so many different people. So they would give us the music first, or even if they give the music to the other magazines, they didn't do anything with it until like they had criterias where it becomes reviews. I was like, yo, let's just be first on it. So we like Jaheim, there were many artists at that time that were just coming up. We reviewed, and then the other publication wouldn't review them until like a month, 2 months later. We was ahead of the game. So people used to drop exclusives on me all the time. Then I got a column in the magazine, and the column I called the column "Ced Says,"
Oh, I
which
love.
basically what basically it was people feeding me information, not rumors. People had rumor sites and gossip. My thing wasn't rumors or gossip. My thing was this is what's going to happen, and it's not a rumor, it's not gossip. This is what's happening. This is factual. So if Alicia Keys is going on tour in Arizona in 2 weeks, they're going to tell me to slip it. And so it worked because then all the friends I had in the industry, like Mark Pitts may have something. He'd be like, "Yo, we about to do this, that, and the other." They would tell me. So it worked that way where even when I stopped working at Impact, I ended up starting my own site. Well, actually, no. I joined these two guys. It was a site called thecrusade.net. Tim Moore
Wait,
and
I
Ray
have a
Tamaro.
question before you go on with that, because we might have
Yeah.
some young people in the audience who are interested in writing for these magazines and about salary. Okay. So, how do you, as a journalist, and you just have a column, do you get paid per word? How does that work?
The game has changed so much these days.
Okay.
There is, I don't know if there's even a right way anymore, particularly in black media. That I'm freelancing right now. So my freelance, I get paid per article. When I'm on staff. So whatever it is they need, I have to write or whatever. So like I said, it really varies. You can get paid per word, you can get paid per article, or you can be salaried. So like I said, it's such a wide range. And some sites even, because of course it's mostly sites nowadays, some sites you even get paid off of traffic. So if your article's not bringing in any revenue, you're not making any money. So like I said,
How do they monitor that?
I mean,
How do they track?
every site has like I mean, there's so many different websites and programs and things that monitor it for people. Like before, like back then, it was only like two or three. Now it's like there's so many little companies. You even have it on your dashboard. Cause I've had my own site for years, so it's like I can I get my metric through my site, and it's so many different ways. But of course, the bigger companies and that's making the corporate dollars, of course, they have to justify why they're selling what they're selling and have the data to back it up. So they have companies that get the data for them, put up reports. Like even now you can have reports run up to specifics. And the way that some of these websites or magazines get paid is sometimes it can be paid per campaign, meaning that they may have a campaign from August 14th to September 23rd, or it can be based on selling a particular amount of units, or it could be once we get the minimum of 100,000 page views, after that, we'll pay you 10 cents per this. But if we reach 500,000, then we'll pay, like I said, so many different metrics that people utilize nowadays. And of course, being that I just write, I don't get caught up in all of that because I get paid based on whatever arrangements I make with whatever property I'm dealing with at the time. So there's so many different ways nowadays, and if anybody that does want to write, I always suggest it's always better to like everything is about numbers nowadays, but it's also about presence. You can do your own thing, and that's how I got to doing everything that I've done in this industry because people saw what I was doing, and they was like, you know what, we need you to do that over here. So it's like I haven't had any formal training in anything I've done in this industry. Well, except the singing.
Yes, we're learning
But
now. We're absolutely
yeah,
learning.
but
Awesome.
at the same time, it was when we were coming up at that time, that lane wasn't created yet. That lane wasn't created yet. So it's just a matter of all the things that I did even 5 years ago are different now because so many companies come in and they ride the wave and it's like, oh, we can do this or we can do that. So things change, especially when everything started going online. Because when I first started my site, people were like, didn't trust online. They didn't trust the internet. And I'm like, no, I'm
Okay.
sticking with this because, this is everyone's gonna go to the internet. Now everybody's on the internet, and some people came late, some people came. It doesn't matter. That's you have to be online nowadays. Specifically, of course,
Nope.
this pandemic just proved everything else. Where even if you weren't really online, you had to
Yeah.
be online, to do particular things. So, but like I said, to not to veer so much off what you had asked, but it's like there's so many different and I'm pretty sure in school now in college and whatever they're teaching ways to do the stuff that I'm doing that I've done on my own. But when
Right.
people when the powers that be realize that they can make money, it's like hip hop. Nobody wants to touch hip hop until they realize that they can make some money. So it's like they found ways to make money so that way they can dictate what
Dame Dash
hip hop
calls them culture vultures. Shout out to Dame
exactly.
Dash.
So it's like and it's funny because speaking of Dame Dash, I actually used to do music promotion, and the very first record I worked was the Jay-Z record in my lifetime. That's the first record I ever worked as doing street promotions. So,
Wow.
like I said, when I was doing things, I did things like at the beginning, specifically with hip hop. When people were still trying to make like people going hand in hand, I gave Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, all the hot DJs at the time. I gave them, whatever records because that's what I was doing. And the person that approached me to do that knew that I knew people, knew that I knew DJs, and was like, "Hey, I'll pay you just to give the records to these DJs." I didn't have to convince them. I didn't have, all I had to do was like, "Here, I got paid to do that." And I'm like, wow. But the advantage was I already knew them. So even if they didn't like the record, they actually took the record. When you had other promoters, they would be like, nah, it's okay, whatever, or they wouldn't take it, or they'd have to pay them, whatever. But with me, it was just a matter of I have a relationship with Red Alert, so here, Red. I have a relationship with this DJ, here. And it always worked. So I came in at a time where everybody was just starting. So it was easier to get things done, but it was also harder if you didn't know. So that's what you mentioned Dame Dash. I was like, yeah, I started working with him when they started Rockefeller. So,
Wow. You're
you know,
amazing. So, anybody who's just tuning in, we're talking with Big Ced, Cedric Thornton, hip hop mogul, promotion guy, writer, singer. If you have any
I'm-
questions that we haven't covered yet, please feel free to ask a question at the end of the show. Mr. Kevin will place it up on the screen for us. Okay, so let's now go into you worked for the Source magazine, Vibe magazine, and your newest gig now, right? Black Enterprise. But you're actually doing your own thing now. Tell us about your company.
well, the reason why I was able to work at Black Enterprise, The Source, Vibe, and all those companies was because I started my own site called the Industry Cosign. Originally, like I was saying before, Ray Tamara and Tim Moore had a site called crusade.net. They asked me to come on board because I, people knew me. I knew everyone. So when I joined the site, whatever that traffic was, I literally we went 5 times. Like I quadrupled the traffic in like less than 3 weeks. So it kind of like it was their site, but it kind of became my site, not because it was my site, but because I did the majority of the writing, and I knew everyone. Everyone knew me. So, like I said, word of mouth. I would tell people I'm doing this, and all of a sudden, I had an email list when nobody knew what an email list was because I started collecting through my friends. And whenever I had a new article out or we had new content, I would blast it out to my list. So all of a sudden, like people will give me money to do that because this is before people started doing email lists. People knew I had a big email list. Not only did I have a big email list, but I had the right people. It wasn't a matter of numbers. It was who the list was going to. I had actual tastemakers. I had label heads. I had like actual rappers who were out there. So it was like they would just pay me just to send out emails. And I'm like, really? That much? Okay, so it was a good thing. So when I was doing the crusade.net, what ended up happening was it was 3 of us, but I think because I was gaining most of the audience or whatever, feelings got into it, and all of a sudden, any idea I had, because we had weekly meetings, any ideas I had that I knew what I could do, they started saying no. And of course, majority rules. So it got to a point where it's like they will come back 2 weeks later, have my suggestion, but put a twist on it to make it seem if it was their idea. And it got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm like, nah, I'm like, whatever. So I ended up leaving the crusade.net. So when I left the crusade.net, like all hip hop, Davey D, there was other hip hop websites that wanted me to write for them. But I'm like, I don't want to get into another situation where somebody is like, impeding my progress because they're either jealous, insecure, or they can't handle the fact that I'm more popular than they are. So and coincidentally, less than a year later, Tim Moore and great Tim Moore left the crusade.net, approached me and like, yo, you want to do the site together? So he came up with the name. He's like, let's do a site called the Cosign. Back then, everything was Cosign, Cosign, Cosign. So he was like, let's do a site called the Cosign. I said, too bland. I said, the industry Cosign. And then he looked at me and I was like, yeah. Now, the funny thing is that if I come up with something, I'm going to ride it because I believe in it. So he fought it. And I was like, nah, we're doing industry Cosign. And it's not going to be anything unless I do it because he couldn't do the site by himself. He's very talented when it comes to web work and everything like that. But as far as drawing the audience and getting content, that was all me. So we had a nice agreement. He did everything technical with the site, the design, everything else. I just do all the content, and I didn't mind because I was doing content anyway. So the industry cosign was there, and in March 15th of next year, the industry cosign will be 17 years old. So I've been doing that,
Wow.
and Tim left the industry cosign like in year 5, and I remember what he said. He's like, industry cosign is nothing without me.
Oh, wow.
It's 17 years later, and I'm still doing it by myself. Now, because of the stuff I do with the industry cosign, Vibe hired me, the Source hired me. Like I was running the Source website. I mean, it was so many different things. Then I went to Black Planet, and then I was running the Black Planet website. So it was just good. And the Black Enterprise situation came about because one of the guys, this guy named Claudio Cabrera. He started writing for the industry cosign when I was working at Interactive One with Black Planet. They needed an editor for one of the sites. He approached me, so I put him in place. He got the job. So, we got cooler. And then when he got to Black Enterprise, he's like, yo, we got a position open. We need you over there. I went over there and I did the interview. Now, Black Enterprise was the very first industry company where I actually had to do an interview. Every company, every place that I ever worked with, they just say, we need you here, or let's do this. It was a partnership. I have never interviewed for an industry job until I got to Black Enterprise. So I did go there unprepared because even though I knew what I was doing, the lady that did the interview just looked at me like, you're not prepared. And I looked at her, I was like, you know what? Now that you say that, you're right. So she actually said that she liked me. She just didn't like my presentation. Understandable, and I get that. But she said that I can freelance if I wanted to. So I started freelancing. When I started freelancing for Black Enterprise,
Hold on one
immediately,
second. Let's rewind a second because we're teaching. How could you have been more prepared? What did you not do?
I wasn't prepared to actually present myself in a manner that would prove that I can handle the job of writing for not only a business magazine, but one of the most prestigious business magazines in Black history. Black Enterprise, even to this day, has a very solid name. And I think because part ego and part because I never had to, like I went in there like, I'm Big Ced. What do I have to do but just go there? And that was my mistake because I wasn't professionally prepared.
So
Even though
what would you
Claudio
have done
did,
differently? Do you bring in your articles? I'm trying to understand, how does the interview go to get a job as an editor? How do you prove what do you do?
she was more so along the lines of asking along the lines of how would I get certain things? Like being that it was corporate, it was more corporate. I'm used to just doing what comes to mind and it always works and people trust my opinion. The Source, every place I've worked at, it was a matter of, yo, we need you. This, that, I went there, it worked, bang. I didn't have anything to worry about. So I kind of got comfortable in what I was used to. Now, even though the other companies were in corporate environments, it was still a little more relaxed, and a little more creative than Black Enterprise was. I wasn't expecting it. So I
Okay.
was unprepared in that where she would ask me specific questions. I didn't know the answer to because no one had ever asked me those questions before. So it's not as if now she knew I was experienced in my writing, but I wasn't experienced in, I guess, everything that went behind it from a corporate standpoint. Writing is creative, just like music, anything else. So not understanding what she was looking for, because if she was looking for just my writing, it wouldn't have mattered. But I think she
Okay.
was looking for more behind that, and I didn't know it at the time. And
Gotcha.
I didn't do. And the thing is, even at that time, there was really no one I could research because all the people that I did know, even people that worked there previously, were people who were, I'm not going to say, we were on the same level as far as the type of audience we would have or just the connections we had where it was like kind of even keel. So
Mhm.
I guess I didn't feel like I needed to speak to them about what I would need to work at a Black enterprise. But it
Okay.
worked out because when I started freelancing, like immediately the traffic numbers started going up since I started writing for them. And immediately it was like, if they were getting 200, I was bringing an additional 300. So every week they would have like, who's on top, whatever. 10 weeks, I'd be on top 14 of them. So it was like,
Oh,
I was always on type. So, but I freelanced for a couple of months, then left. But they asked me to come back maybe about 8, 9 months later. Didn't really want to because there were things I didn't like because I felt like they were stifling my creativity. They brought me in to do something, but then telling me to do it this way. And it's like, yeah, but what you're telling me was fine in the 70s. Now it's can be done differently, this and other. But this time around, I'm like, you know what? It's still Black enterprise. It still looks good on the resume. It still looks good because Black enterprise, regardless of whether it wasn't the source or vibe, it was still Black enterprise. So this
yes.
time I went to work in the office. So I was actually staff. First time I was freelance. So the second time they did a little switch up and somebody else was running the digital department. So they brought me
Okay.
in. And it was like, blah, blah, blah. We know what you can do, this, that, and other. Right away, traffic started going right back up when I got there. And initially, because you had a couple of people there that didn't like the fact that I came in and immediately numbers started going. And then I started bringing, remember, I've always been connected. So I started bringing in celebrity interviews or interviews with high-ranking executives. So you had some people there that were looking at me in a way where I'm like, listen, we're all in this together. I'm not trying to showcase them. I'm just doing what
Right.
I do.
Right.
So it just got to a point where, like, I was brought in because I had, whatever I had plus, they wanted to also bring a little hip hop because hip hop was where everybody was going, where everyone was doing. I had all those connections. I could bring that there. But anytime I would suggest something or go in a certain direction, it was like,
Mhm.
no. And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand. Like, I'll even give you an idea. I was like, we can't get Dr. Dre, but we can get somebody from his team to talk about the inner workings of Dr. Dre because Dr. Dre is not going to interview for Black Enterprise. He's just not going to. 50 Cent, Jay-Z, none of them wanted to for whatever reason because they already had the Forbes, all the other magazines. So my thinking was, okay, even if I do know them, they're not going to do it just because of that. It would have been beautiful
Right.
if they did. But I'm like, okay, but you know what? I know their team. And if I can get to their team, we can do something where it's like the inner workings of the Jay-Z Rockefeller thing without having to speak to Jay-Z, but getting the Jay-Z story. But I was always getting pushback for anything that I would suggest that would probably make sense because then we'll be bringing in a younger audience. Then you'll bring
Yeah.
people in, and all of a sudden, and what usually happens whenever I work in, when I worked at the Source, when I worked at Black Planet, wherever I work, whenever I brought my peoples, all of a sudden more people start to come because it's like, okay,
Mhm.
we have somebody in there, blah 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 blah. It just got to the point where I think it was like more of personality clash because I'm not a difficult person, but if I feel something, I'm going to try to do it. And if you stop me, I'm gonna feel like, wow, it's like, let me do what I do because we all win. I'm not here to and another thing is every place I've ever worked at, there was always somebody there above me who was threatened by me. So I kind of got used to that where I kind of had to like hold back and not be as creative or not be as intelligent because
That's
I don't want
really
anybody
good.
feeling threatened. So it got to the point where even after I left Black Enterprise, when people would approach, I'd be like, nah, because I'll come in and the next thing you know, you want to get rid of me for doing exactly what you want me to come to do. Every place I worked at, the Source vibe. When I say every place I worked at, it always happened. So,
Wow.
and this was like 7 years ago, I think. So, somebody that works there now, Justin, he worked with me at Interactive One. He started working at Black Enterprise. So he approached me last year and he's like, hey, how'd you feel about writing for Black Enterprise again? And I'm like, I don't know, because, they might not want me to work there, this, is that, and other, because, I know what I'm doing, this, is that, and other, and I don't want any clash. And he's like, no, basically you'll be dealing with me, blah, 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 and this, that, and other. And I was like, you know what? I've never had a problem with Black Enterprise.
Right.
Whoever it was, they had a problem with me or what I was doing. So I'm like, you know what? If they're cool with it, I'm cool with it. I said, because
Yeah.
what I'm going to do is do what I do whenever I go back to Black Enterprise. That traffic is going to come back up. And the reason
Yeah.
why I always say those things, because I know what I'm capable of doing, and I know that it can happen. And plus, I have to have confidence in myself, because if I don't, who's going to have confidence in me? Sure
You're
enough,
right
the
about
minute I got
that.
there, the traffic has gone back up to where now we're doing much better than. And I'm not going to take full. I'm not going to say it's because of me, but I do have a hand in it, because I know what to do, how to do it, and I still feel, even if somebody from Black Enterprise is watching this right now, I still feel like I can't do what I can do, because there's going to be people there that's going to look at me as if I'm either trying to show them up, or they're threatened that I can actually do something bigger than what I'm doing. And I can assure you, I can probably do 3-4 times better than what I'm doing now, but I'm not trying to give my all to get it knocked down or ignored or go away, little boy, you're bothering me. So it's like I can't. And I gotta do that for either the industry cosign or whatever else I'm working with, because I know what I'm capable of doing and I'm gonna do it. But like I said, I enjoy working at Black Enterprise, because it's a good
Yes.
feeling, because Black Enterprise is still Black Enterprise. And I'm
Amen.
proud to say that I work at Black Enterprise. I work for Black Enterprise. I work with Black Enterprise. I'm associated with Black Enterprise. So,
Yes.
and it's funny, because as many people that have come to me to interview and do things for whatever programs, podcasts, whatever, I make sure I tell them that it's got to be about the industry cosign, and I can mention Black Enterprise, because I don't want anyone thinking that I'm going to be the savior, or I represent Cedric C. Thornton, Big Ced, or the industry cosign. I know that if I die today, all of that dies. So I'm not going to represent anybody and not try to. Because I know some people, if they get with a brand, they're going to run with it. I would have interns at the source or wherever. I would tell them, never let where you work control who or what you do. You have to be who you are.
Say that
I
one
tell
more
people,
time for the people in the back. Say that one more time.
never let a brand or company basically control who or what you are. Because regardless of whether I'm at Black Enterprise, whether I'm
Mm-hmm.
at Forbes, or whether I'm at Entrepreneur, I'm Big Ced wherever I go. So you're going to concentrate on what Big Ced can do. Because if you're messing with me because I'm with Black Enterprise, the minute Black Enterprise gets rid of me or I leave Black Enterprise, you might not mess with me. That's what the industry is. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it where even to this day, people are still amazed that I have those connections I have with that. I wasn't doing anything. Well, I was still doing my site, but I wasn't doing anything with any brands actually since Black Enterprise. And people are like, why do people still mess with you? I'm like, because one, relationships, and two, I'm still good at what I do. Even when I take a
Yes.
break, even when I don't want to do it. So people know that my mother taught me something when we were younger. Your name, your name. Regardless of what you do, you must make sure that your name is connected to whatever it's connected to, as long as your name is good. So if people know me for being good at what I do, I could go
Yes.
work at McDonald's. They're gonna be like, yo, that Big Ced at McDonald's is the best. And I'm gonna
You're
own
so
that.
funny.
But no, but I'm being serious. It's like,
No,
but
you're right. And hi, shout out to Miss Thornton. Hi, hope you're feeling well. We have to get some questions in from the audience, because a lot of times towards the end of the show, the audience has some questions. So, Mr. Kevin, do you have any questions that we can put up for Big Ced?
nobody wants to hear anything from me.
You probably answered it all. Okay. Oh, let's see. We need some Jeopardy music.
And see, you didn't have to play the music at all.
I hear it.
No, I'm talking about what you said with the special ed song. If I say
Oh,
anything,
yeah.
so
Okay, so there aren't any questions. So we're
I'm gonna
coming
say,
to the end of the show. I cannot believe we did an hour. We didn't even get through all the questions, which means you're gonna have to come back.
I guess
Please.
so. No,
Thank you.
sure,
Goodness, I so enjoyed you. I hope that you had a good time. I've learned so much about you
I did.
tonight,
Thanks.
more than ever. I'd
That's only
like to
10%.
again give a shout out to our sponsors, InStyle Performance Wear. I want to thank All Things Centered Essential Oils, TGI Virtual Fundraiser for the Student Achievement Institute, Deliverance Travels by Rosalind Shepard, and That's Entertainment Performing Arts Competition. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Kevin, thank you so much. You did a fabulous job back there, Kevin. And Mr. Big Ced, we love you. Before we go, next week is Thanksgiving. Everyone have a safe Thanksgiving. We have a special edition. It's going to be called Tribute Session. It's going to be for my mentor, Bernice Johnson. And our special guest for the evening to tribute to Bernice Johnson is Nasha Thomas from Alvin Ailey and Obadiah Wright, the famous choreographer, producer, director. So tune in next week on Thanksgiving, and we'll see you then. Ced, love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
Bye,
Thank you. I
guys. Bye,
appreciate this.
Kevin. Thank you.